was very sick, so I didn't know nothing. And when it took me for a long time before I knew that I had a liver transplant. I knew I was sick, but I didn't know how sick I was because before I went into coma.
Well, Richie was 12 and a half. He was riding his bike to school one morning and he had a collision with another school bus, with a school bus. And he, for all practical purposes, was killed instantly, but they were able to get him on life support quickly enough. And then the medical and legal protocol kicked in to declare brain death, which they did then the following day. The year before his accident, I had remarried and was signing the back of my driver's license. And Richie asked what I was doing because I was wanted to be an organ donor. And I explained it to him, and he thought that sounded kind of gross. But I explained that, like, when I give blood, it helps somebody and it doesn't hurt me. Once I'm dead, I don't need the organs, and if they can help someone else, it would be a real waste not to donate. And he thought about it, and then he asked me if he could be a donor when he got his license too. I finally accepted the fact that there was no hope for his survival. I knew that donating the organs would be what he would want. And they were able to donate the liver, both kidneys, and the corneas, and the heart valves. Well, Maria was one of the first 100 successful liver transplants in the Madison system, and they were having a celebration of that. And she had sent me a letter, and she sent me a beautiful thank you card. And all it had was "Love Maria" and a postmark from Rockford, Illinois. That's all I knew. But I knew that it had been a young woman who had gotten the liver, so I presumed that's who the card was from. And I had notified the transplant system that they were allowed to give my information if the recipients wanted it. And then it was followed up by a phone call. And then she invited me down to Madison for the celebration, and that's where we met for the first time. And it was a year to the day after the transplant.
It was wonderful. I was still trying to accept it, because it was very hard because I know Mom was going through a lot, and I didn't know how to comfort her. I said she's my mom.
Yeah.
And she's my family, and I will never leave you.
Yeah.
And
They've adopted me.
To me is like a mom, a friend, my secret friend. I can tell her anything, my best friend. I'm so thankful to God that I was able to have another opportunity to, be here with my daughter, because my daughter was one of the ones that was most affected, because she was only 3 years old, and she could have lost her mom.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful to God again, like I said, and my family that was always there, and my father too. My father loved Mom a lot, and he would, every time she would come down, she would tell her, thank you, and I love you. And
give me a big hug every single time. Thank you so much. I love you. And the first day we met, her mother was there, and she doesn't speak that much English, but she could say thank you as well. She was sitting with her daughter and told that she was going to die if she didn't get the transplant. She's in Madison, I'm sitting in Green Bay with my son, being told that there is no hope. He's not going to survive. And at least something decent came from such a senseless tragedy. People have said how brave it was. That was the easiest part of that whole situation, was saying yes, if he doesn't make it, because I was still in denial, that we would want to donate the organs. So that was the easiest part of it. But then to develop this relationship was absolutely way beyond my imagination. And then for her to have the next generation, I mean, talk about the circle of life. Good heavens. It's been, and I was a Wisconsin state trooper, so I dealt with traffic accidents and people and fatalities. And I understand that if you haven't thought about it ahead of time, it's not a decision you can make in the midst of that kind of a situation. And that's why we do what we can to try to get the word out there that this is what happens when you can do an organ donation. It's just so much more than what people realize, but you have to think about it ahead of time. And you have to let your family know. Because even if you sign your driver's license and it says that's a legal document, there isn't a hospital in the nation that's going to take organs without signed permission of the next of kin at the time of death. So they need to know. And it takes a burden off of them to make the decision for you.
I am so thankful, and I'm always very Catholic, and on my own, I told God that the will that He did for me to, be again alive, and that I was going to serve Him in church, and that I would help people, that needed my help. I know my dad would be very happy because he told me, he goes, when I leave, and I said, what are you talking to? You're not leaving nowhere. Stop talking like that. Because when I leave, just always tell her I love her. So my dad said, I love you.
He was a great man. I never anticipated at the time that it would develop into this. Like I said, I think back in 1988 when Richie was killed and she got the transplant, the benchmark was like 5 years. And here it is 35 plus later. It's just absolutely incredible. Maria had said initially that there was some guilt on her part. I'm alive and your son isn't. But, and it's understandable. But it's like, I had no control. I would never have voluntarily sacrificed my son to save anybody. But I had no control over that. And at least something decent and positive and wonderful came of it.
I told her, Mom, your grandson was born. Oh, that's beautiful. How is he healthy? Yes, Mom. I named him after Richie.
Yeah.
And she got quiet.
Yeah, up until a couple of years ago, I was living in California. I had moved out to California in 2001. So we didn't get to see each other as often, obviously. But now that I'm back, and then now that she's feeling good and I had been sick for a while, so hopefully this will happen more often. My deal is just make sure that you think about it. If you choose not to, I respect that, but at least think about it and let your next of kin know that that's your wish, that those are your wishes. And if a 12-year-old boy can make that decision, so can you.